Welcome to From Stuck to Scale, Growth Strategies for Small and Mid-Sized Businesses, your guide to navigating growth, transformation, and success in today's ever-changing business landscape. Each week, we'll dive into proven strategies, real-world case studies, and actionable insights designed to help small and mid-sized business owners scale smart, lead stronger, and grow faster. Let's get you unstuck and on the path to sustainable, scalable success. Now your host, Julio Gonzalez.
Hello, you're probably wondering who I am and why I started this podcast. Great questions. My name's Julio Gonzalez, and I'm just a regular guy like you, small business owner. And over the past 15 years, I've helped businesses grow, transform, and scale from small companies all the way to multi-million-dollar organizations. As a technology professional and C-suite leader, my passion for finding the right solution led to guiding leaders through real-world challenges, whether operational bottlenecks, leadership roadblocks, or scaling hurdles, and helping them build stronger, smarter, more profitable businesses. But here's the truth. Scaling a business isn't easy, especially for small and mid-sized companies. The road is full of uncertainty, complexity, and pressure. I started my business, VCTO Business Consulting, and this podcast because I believe small and mid-sized business owners deserve real strategies, not theory. Practical, proven growth strategies you can actually put into action. From Stuck to Scaled is about meeting you where you are, whether you're feeling stuck, stretched thin, or just ready to take your business to the next level, and giving you the tools, insights, and supports you need to grow with confidence. I designed this podcast to bring you real-world strategies, leadership insights, and case studies you can learn from, all designed specifically for small and mid-sized businesses navigating today's challenging environment. And each week, I'll share actionable insights you can implement immediately and let your business thrive. This show isn't about buzzwords or hype. It's about helping you build a business that's stronger, more scalable, and more resistant and more resilient, starting right now. With that, I'm thrilled to kick off this journey with a great friend and someone whom we've been mutually instrumental in each other's lives, Paul Mansur, founder and CEO of NXT GEN Technologies. Paul and I go back over a decade. I've had the privilege of being his first customer at NXT GEN and one of a few who gave that final nudge to start the company. Since then, Paul's built NXT GEN into a trusted technology solutions provider known for its commitment to keeping IT simple and secure. Under Paul's leadership, NXT GEN has been included in CRN's top solution provider and Tech Elite 250 for providers across the U.S., South Florida Business Journal's fastest growing technology company, top cloud computing companies and fastest growing private company, and Inc. magazine's top private companies in the Southeast. Paul was also named in South Florida Business Journal Power Leaders 250. In this episode, we'll delve into Paul's journey from the inception of NXT GEN to its evolution as a value-added partner for countless organizations. We'll explore how his dedication to delivering value has shaped the company's ethos and discuss the challenges and triumphs he's encountered along the way. And now we will bring in Paul. So here is Paul Mansur. Paul, tell us about Paul Mansur and NXT GEN.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Julio, as guest numero uno. Proud husband of 15 years, father of 3 crazy children that I do everything for. A little bit about NXT GEN. We believe in just keeping IT simple and secure. We provide innovative solutions and services that are scalable, simple to use and manage, while providing security at the forefront of it all. That's really just a little bit of who we are and what we do.
And what types of customers do you serve?
Healthcare, financial, business, B2B commerce, government. We're on all national slug contracts, Omnia, NASPO, amongst others, Equalis. Really anybody that's looking for true guidance in cybersecurity, IT professional services, or IT guidance and roadmaps, that's who we're here to target, as well as with our IT concierge services, where we could help be there for your team as little or as much as you want, and anything in between.
And with all the value-added resellers out there, what drove you to start NXT GEN?
It's really kind of cliche, but what drove me where some personal and professional influences, such as my wife and actually yourself, as you know, or some of people listening to the podcast for the very first time, Julio was one of the 3 strategic influencers to actually open Next Gen. So thank you for that, Julio. Really, again, it's cliche, but what took me over the edge to start Next Gen was to do something different. And being in the industry for about 20 years in several different roles, from starting in this industry as an accounts payables and receivables clerk all the way to where I am now as a CEO, I saw that there were things that needed to change in the reseller industry that was lacking, and it needed to be changed. And that was a void that I was hoping to fulfill with Next Gen. I think we've done a pretty good job doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit more background, that obviously our listeners don't know, but Paul and I met on my first day on a new job. We went to lunch. We were sitting there at lunch, and Paul says, "Oh, how long have you been on the job?" And I looked at my watch and I said, "Well, about 3 hours." And Paul chuckled and said, "No, really?" I said, "No, really, 3 hours." Um, and the rest is kind of long and winding story, right? There's no reason why Paul and I would strike up a relationship like this, other than I saw in Paul the type of service that I needed provided. Paul brought that leadership to the sales process. It wasn't just here's a product. Paul was truly concerned about why we would be needing the project and how we would be implementing it, and making sure that we got the maximum value out of the product. So he's very I'll say bashful, for lack of a better term, but Paul does truly stand out because of how he cares about his customers, and part of that is how he runs his company. So to that point, Paul, talk to me a little bit about your leadership and how you're running NextGen.
Sure, I'll just jump in and say the one thing Julio forgot to mention is I left that meeting forgetting his name. First piece of advice is as a salesperson, don't forget the client's name. I mean, so thank God I was able to rebound from that. But really, what was the biggest difference in the leadership journey was really just prioritizing the team and investing in the team, ensuring that the team has the ability to continuously learn. I'm sure we're all on LinkedIn. We're all seeing those wonderful memes that come out, some that are great, some that make you go, why was that written? But one that always sticks out is what if you put in all this time and resources into training them and they leave? But the other half of that statement is, what if they stay? I'm proud to say that most folks stay here, right? And it's because they're happy to be here, because they have that open ability to learn, to educate themselves, to enrich themselves, right? Giving the team the empowerment to make their own decisions, understanding that they're representing their own brand, right? So going back to Julio's point, I was my own brand, and that is what got me to stick around and open up NextGen. So letting the team feel happy that wearing this logo is more than that. It's the person wearing the polo behind it, representing that business card. There is that empowerment to make their own decisions and feeling like they're not just this person fulfilling X role for this company. And basically just always providing a supportive culture and acknowledging recognition and providing feedback in a constructive manner. So we've all worked for places where you're just looking for that pat on the back, and you're looking for that good job or that congratulations or whatever it may be, versus the what have you done for me lately? And okay, you just closed this deal, now what? Right? I mean, there's stories that I've heard throughout the industry and I've seen firsthand that have really demoralized and put a tarnish on the industry that we serve as a
Yeah,
value added
totally.
reseller. And I have a great pride, and I take great pride in making NextGen feel like home. So this is going to give away a trade secret, but I always tell everybody that interviews here that you're looking for home because you want to be at home with your family. I want to be home with my wife. I want to be home with my kids. Well, maybe sometimes not my kids, but kidding aside, right? You want to be home because you want to be spending time with your loved ones. But this is why you do this, is for your loved ones, so you can provide for them, provide a lifestyle that you hope to give them, right? So I always pride in saying that if you're looking for a place that feels like your home, no matter what time you check in or check out, this is the way to be. And I pride myself in that culture that we built. So long, elaborate answer. There's several different answers, but I hope that helped provide context.
And how do you get? I mean, you obviously interview for
Mhm.
that fit, and you're telling them, that it's part of home. But how do you get your staff to buy into that family feel and providing the same level of care to the customers that you do?
Sure. So it's a good question. You, what I always tell anybody that's selling, that's looking for advice, I always tell them, sell the one thing you can't, that no one else can sell. My wife can sell me very well, but she can't sell me 100%, just like I can't sell her 100%. So sell the one thing you can't, which is yourself. So I always want that level of comfort. So when people are here, that they feel that they're at home. And I want that same message to be branded so that there's that trust factor. So who, going back to that 3 hours in story, you had that sense of comfortability that we did have phone call number two and
Hmm.
meeting number
Yep.
two. That, for those that don't know, it was a pretty sizable data center deal that, it was great. It was a unique project. And the good news is I remembered your name afterwards. But but seriously, you provide that level of comfort because people buy from who they trust. And you want people to trust you in your brand and not trust what are you going to do if they leave or if they stay, or what if I would have taken that other offer, this and this. People buy based off emotion. There's no difference in that. So selling the applicant on feeling like this is home is going to really make them really want to listen more to your offer, and really embodying those core values that are on our website. Those are not just values that are written. And I know this sounds really cliche, but I really wanted it to stand out that those 9 values that we have are true. And 2 of them that stand out are trust and family. And what, you trust and family is everything. If you can't trust your family, then who can you trust? Right. So that's the sense of embodiment that we look for. And that's how we screen our folks to join us. Or part of the screen.
And I know I'm going off on a little bit
Uh,
of a tangent,
I did too. Don't worry.
as I often do. Uh, but I don't want our listeners to think that we are um, you know ever in agreement and go
No.
along with everything that one another does. I mean, you and I have had some pretty intense disagreements, and my philosophy on vendors versus partners, and that can be a whole other show.
Absolutely.
But you've come through in moments of thick and thin, and we had our cyber attack, and you were there to help us out, to make sure that we had everything that we needed, and that also shows a lot about your leadership style, and the way that you care for your customers. It's both internal and external. Internally, it's
Mm.
the leadership that you apply to the team, and externally, it's the compassionate care that you provide to your customers. How did that develop in you?
It's a pretty simple philosophy, right? And the one great thing, and I know this is going to sound very cheesy, and we're talking each other up, right? But Julio's called me out, and he's told me, I don't like this. You got to fix it. And it was business. I understood that, right? I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to continue to make mistakes. But the good thing is that if you have that true partnership relationship, you can tell the partner or the customer, hey, there was this issue where we looked into a phone system years ago, and I said, Julio, I don't think you should do X. You need to go with Y. because of XYZ reasons. There's a lot of money being spent here. Let's figure it out. And we did. And you have to be able to have that trusted relationship. Going back to us in terms of how I sell myself from 9 to 5 is I always tell everybody who you get Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. I mean, excuse me, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. is the same person you're going to get from 5:01 p.m. to 8:59 a.m., including weekends. And there's no difference. And I've said this story quite a bit, so I apologize to anybody that's hearing this for second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth time. When you see me out with my wife and kids, I don't want you hiding and saying, okay, let's go this way because the annoying vendor is over there or the annoying guy who's just trying to sell me something is there. I want everybody to feel approachable. Again, going back to that home story of making you sell based off friendship, right? I
Absolutely.
don't go in this looking into friends. I understand. I'm not afraid to walk away from a deal, understanding that it's not a right fit for either the client or for the company, because the name and reputation is everything. This, again, a brand is a name. So I want everybody that if they see my wife, kids, and I out, they're like, hey, so and so, meet Paul and his kids and his wife, and vice versa. And you want to strike up that conversation because it's not all about business. It's about building a relationship. And that is really why I'm here today on so many different levels. And that's why, Julio chose to stick with me for all these years, is because of that valuable relationship and that partnership and making it feel like home and admitting to mistakes and fixing the mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, but it's how you pick yourself up. So really advocating that advice from start to finish throughout is the secret.
And you just walked into my next question.
Ooh.
As a leader, how do you handle adversity in your business?
This is a cliche thing again, but I pride myself on being the dumbest person in the room. That's not to put down how I am. I tend to think of myself as a moderately intelligent person. But really, what I like to say is that I'm not always going to have the right answers. I look to others to seek advice. Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Do you think I'm looking at the whole picture, or is there another way to approach it, and then trying the approach that makes the most sense? So really, just the way I handle adversity is look at the situation at hand, being able to pivot accordingly, understanding that you may have the right idea, but confiding in others as a leader is not a sign of weakness. To me, it's actually a sign of maybe you don't have all the right answers, but you may be able to but through collaboration, you could find that formulated answer or answers that could find a solution. So really, that's how I would say is a way that I handle adversity, is priding myself on shutting up and listening, as well as listen and really just being that person in the room that's going to listen to all opinions and say, hey, here's what we got, and here's an outcome that makes more sense than maybe what I have preconceived in my head.
No, absolutely. What is a big decision or idea that's made a big impact in either your leadership journey or your business?
Oh man, that's a good question. I would say, see, this is where I'm going to say, listen again. Can you repeat the question just to make sure I got it so I can answer it correctly?
No, one big decision or idea that's made a difference in your life, let's say.
Incorporating, all right, listening to others that have said you can do this, trusting yourself. I've heard a saying recently that says that if your goals don't scare you, they're not real goals. And challenging with myself to take out quite a substantial amount of personal loans to start Next Gen was a very scary endeavor. It's not a secret that several things happened to me during that first year. I had a couple personal issues that came up from a legal issue to my father being diagnosed with terminal cancer, all within a 3-week span. Overcoming that adversity to then being hit with the first global pandemic in 100 years in 2020, when we were able to freely market.
Yep.
And it's fear, but yeah, that was something scary that we were able to overcome. I'm very proud of that.
And I think your leadership, shines through in every one of those situations. Because you could have, gone into, flight mode, instead of fight mode. But you've come through in each of those situations, and the company and yourself are all stronger and better for that. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
You've done a great job, with your company and your family throughout, this whole
Nothing without my team, which is the team that serves and wears this badge, as well as the team that supports me 24 hours, 7 days a week, at home. So, absolutely.
I guess, one of the last questions that I have for you is, how do you see next gen evolving? As the company gets larger, your leadership has to evolve and mature with it. So, where do you see yourself and next gen going?
The market's always changing in this industry, right? A couple of years ago, it was about data centers getting to the cloud. Then it's been cybersecurity. Now AI is the new buzzwords. That every couple of years there seems to be a couple new buzz or trigger words. So you're constantly pivoting. The best advice I can say for where next gen is going to be is this company's prided itself on being unique, being genuine, and being different. And we're going to continue being different, going back to our core, which is being ourselves, providing the best of breed technologies and services that keep IT simple, keeping it secure, being innovative, and being scalable. So by doing all that, that's going to continue to propel the industry and propel us as a company. I'm proud to say of all the awards that we've won. It's all over our website and all over social media. And the way that we're going to continue to grow is just following the same formula, being ourselves, being home, telling our story, telling our brand, being that personal representative, being that true value added partner. That's going to keep us going, keep driving us forward. But really listening to, I can say without getting into detail where I heard this from, but I heard that a lot of folks sometimes want to dictate and tell the market what they need to hear versus listening to what the market has to say. And I've seen it firsthand. And it's somebody that was very, very close to me that said, hey, I'm going to tell the market what they wanted to hear. And they failed because of it. And I can tell you, my business plan for this company is completely different than what I outlined. And by listening to what the market had to say and where the market wanted to go, we've been able to shine and flourish. So we're going to continue to listen to what the market has to say, what's just driving that demand, and listening to what our customers, partners, and trusted advisors have to say and pivoting that way, while again being different, unique, and genuine, and holding everything true to our core values.
That's great. One of the things that I've built into the structure of this podcast is nobody leaves without some advice for our listeners, or lessons learned, things that they can implement immediately to make their business grow. And I heard you loud and clear. I wrote it down. You said, sell the one thing you can't, and that's you. So you want to elaborate a little bit more on that and give me some additional lessons for our listeners?
Sure. So it's a little bit of rinse and repeat before I get into that. So before I talk about selling yourself, if your goals don't scare you, they aren't real goals. I'm telling you, there's nights. We could put my wife on this podcast. I mean, Julio's got her number. She could put you on here and say there's days that I don't sleep because I'm worried and constantly thinking, right? Because what's next and what's coming. So be different, be unique, be genuine. You may not have the most unique idea, but if you have a different way, a genuine way of presenting that product, solution, or service, you're going to stand out, which goes back to selling yourself. My colleague, Herman, who was hire number one, many folks may not know this, but I was his inside sales rep for about a year and a half. And I remember leaving a client. He had an issue with a client one day, and I was handling an inside sale or transaction or something for him. And I said, let's go see the client. And he goes, okay. We get in the car, we go to the client, we have a meeting for about an hour, resolve the issue, we have lunch, heading back from Brickell, heading down to Miami. And the whole ride, he's driving, and I'm in the passenger side, and he kept doing this. And I go, what? And he goes, you need to get into sales. And I go, no, I'm not doing it. Here I am. So many years later, swallowing my pride, eating crow, whatever you want to call it, right? But it was the bestest thing that could ever happen to me because I was able to sell the one thing that no one else could, which was myself. Because again, I'm not going to be this phony person on the side of the phone to try to win over a purchase order or a statement of work or your business and then be something different afterwards. Be yourself. If you sell yourself and you be yourself and you're genuine, the rest will come. Should work most of the time.
I'm going to have to reprocess that one a little later. Paul, so where can our guests find you?
Oops, sorry about that. Thank you for that. It can be found on our website at www.nextgentech.com, spelled NXTGENTECH.com, or you could email us at info@nextgentech.com. Further information can be found on our social media websites on Facebook or LinkedIn.
Thank you for that. So thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you being my very first guest. There couldn't have been a better choice for that.
Humbled, thank you.
From Stuck to Scaled is going to be a hit if this episode is an indication. So thanks to our guest, Paul Mansur, CEO at NXT GEN Technologies. Remember, growth isn't a destination, it's a journey. And every step you take brings you closer to the business and life you're building. Don't stop now. Subscribe, review, and let's keep scaling together. And I will see you next week. Take care, everyone.
You've been listening to From Stuck to Scaled, growth strategies for small and mid-sized businesses, produced by Optocution LLC. For more information, tools, and resources, check out our website www.redefinepossible.co/podcast.